Hello everyone, it's Davide here and welcome back to Learning Finance. So this is the end of the earnings week that we had on Airlines Stocks. So in today's video I want to talk with you about what we can conclude about those earnings and for how long those companies can actually survive the current situation. Okay, so leave me a like if you find this video interesting, so you're gonna help me with the YouTube algorithm, which is very important for a new channel like me, and subscribe. But let's not waste time and let's begin. So let's start from just a quick recap. Okay, so earnings. Southwest Airlines. We had earnings on Tuesday. And we had actually earnings that are bad, but not so bad as the estimated as was the estimates. Okay, so we had reported earnings per share of minus 0.15 with an estimate of minus 0.48. Okay, so actually that was bad, but not too bad. A surprise of 68.75%. And what we have next, United Airlines earnings yesterday, Thursday, April 30. We had again an estimate of minus 3.25 and reported of minus 2.57. So we have a 20.92, almost 21% in surprise, which is not bad again. And we should have Delta as well, Delta Airlines, which is not from this week but is from the previous week. And again, estimated earnings per share of minus 0.72 and reported was minus 0.51. So bad, but better than expected. And yesterday we had, boom, damn, the worst one, okay? The worst company in terms of balance sheet in the airline industry, the riskiest one, American Airlines Group, ticker symbol AAL. Earnings, operating revenues, it's minus 20% from the previous year, the previous quarter. So the confrontation here is with Q1 2019, minus 20%, 8.51 billions, and with a net loss of 2.24 billions. Okay, so the difference with the previous year is incredible. Okay, because now we have a loss of $5.26 per share, while the previous quarter we had a profit of $0.41 per share. So it's a completely devastation for them. Okay, look at that. And so what we can conclude, because now the main question is now the time to invest in those companies, and for how long they can survive with this kind of situation. Okay, so today we are going to take a look about that. Now, before to look at the Excel sheet, I would like to show you a couple of things that you have to keep in mind. And one important stuff is from this article from the CNBC, and they are saying that American Airlines can still have access, if they need, to a 10.6 billion in federal payroll grants and loans under the 2.2 trillion blah 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 relief package Congress approved last month. Okay, so those things are still available. And another stuff, which is this one. That's what the CEO said yesterday, that Americans' pandemic reality, we will be a much smaller airlines in the future. Okay, that's what says the CEO. What does it mean? Is that basically with this situation that they are having right now, they are forced to cut costs, okay, which are useless in some cases. Like, what it means by that is that basically they are cutting American is retiring its Boeing 757s, Boeing 767, Airbus, and so a lot of fly. 80 mainline airplanes, they are gonna reduce those things. Okay, so the company is actually reducing their costs. Okay, it's like they are getting smaller to trying to survive this disaster that it's going on right now. Okay, the black swan event that no one was expecting. So that's another thing to keep in mind, and they are saying that basically they will continue to burn, if the situation is going on, around 70 million in cash per day, and this is gonna go down to 50 million per day by June. Okay, those are their estimates. So we have you have to keep that in mind, and now we have to think about something. We have to think about that. This is a document, data document from the Transportation Security Administration, TSA. And those are basically checkpoints. It's a confrontation with what was going on 1 year ago and now. Okay, so 1 year ago in US, we had around 2,256,000 passengers per day registered at a checkpoint. Okay, so this is per day. So April 28th, this number, April 29, this number. Why this is 2020? Okay, look at that, guys. Look at that, because this is incredible. When I was saying that we cannot go better than now, that's what I meant. Okay, look at that. 1 year ago, April 20, 2 million and almost 600,000 passengers at checkpoint. 1 year later, below 100,000. That's 96% less. That's absolutely incredible. And so that's what I meant when in the last video, go to check it out if you haven't already, I said why I bought American Airlines stocks and why I bought Delta Airlines stocks. Okay, my opinion before the earnings week was that right now we cannot go worse than what we already are in. Okay, so it's like it's impossible, in my opinion, right now to be worse than that. Okay, that's probably the worst thing ever in the history of airlines. Okay, so that's the reality. Okay, that's the reality. Now, in positive sign is that, look at that. Positive sign is that the middle of March we were far above 1 million of passenger per day, and now, and this is the lockdown period. So it started around here, and we went down until now, the beginning of April, which has been a disaster. Okay, a disaster. Never ever in the history. This is a disaster. And now we have to ask ourselves how long we are going to be in this situation, because this situation here is the difference for airlines company to survive or not. Okay, and so that's the real question: how long this situation is going to survive, and how many passengers do those company needs to survive, because they don't need all those passengers, and they can survive with lower number of passengers. Okay, so we don't need to come back to those numbers tomorrow, but we have to see how many passengers do we need. Okay, so let's take a look. So I'm gonna analyze American Airlines. Why? Because they are the worst of them all. Okay, so if we understand how American Airlines can survive, we of course it means that all the other airlines companies, they are gonna survive. Okay, because if it's the worst one, well, it's very likely. Okay, if the worst one survive, the better one, they're gonna of course survive as well. So let's see. So far, they have received from the US Treasury 5.8 billions, which 4.1 billions are in a grant, so they don't need to give them back, and 1.7 billion are in a loan. Okay, and this Q1 is basically just a quick table with revenues that we already know. Operating revenue down to 8.51 billions, and the cost of revenue 10.75. That means a net loss on 2.24, which we saw before in the article. Okay. Now, what we have to consider: Delta Airlines, they cut costs of 60%. Okay, to try to survive. And now we can presume that then American Airlines, they are gonna do the same. Okay, I showed you the articles when they were saying we are gonna be a smaller company. They are cutting those lines, 80 main lines. Okay, so we can presume they are gonna do the same, around 60% of costs. That means that this one, if you reduce this one for 60%, you're going to have 4.3. Now, of those 4.3 billions, 2.05 billions are for payroll, just for payroll costs. So, what we have right here, just let's take a look at this. Right here, we have that in Q2 and Q3, if we presume a cost of revenue reduced by 60% of 4.3 billions, and one important thing, this grant here can provide to payroll costs for 2 quarters. Okay, so let's suppose that they are gonna pay the payroll with the grant. And as you can see here, the net loss will be 2.25 billions and 2.25 billions, considering an operating revenue of 0. So no flight at all. Now, the question we have to ask ourselves is, I showed you before those numbers. Okay, so these are very low, but they are not at 0. Okay, and we are gonna go out at some point. Okay, we cannot stay at home forever. Those numbers, they're gonna start to climb up again. Okay, not back at those levels, but at least higher than this. Okay, because you don't just fly to go on holiday. People are flying sometimes because they need. Okay, so to go back up 20-30%, to come back around 500,000 per day, it's easier that to come back at those levels. You just need to stop those kind of lockdowns. Okay, and so let's see what will happen. To continue this analysis, we have to consider Q1 2019. The operating revenue of American Airlines was 10.6 billion. Okay, and this was the average passengers per day in 2019, 2,100,000 passengers per day. And this was the operating revenue. Now, we said that to have a break-even, if we use the grant, so for the next 2 consecutive quarters, they will have a net loss of 2.25 billion if operating revenues are 0. So to have a break-even, we need to have operating revenues of around 2.25 billions. And to have that, we would need to be 21.23% of the revenues that American Airlines were making 1 year ago. Okay, and considering that the average of passengers per day 1 year ago was 2,100,000. If you multiply this number times 21.23%, you have that to reach the break-even, those numbers, they have to climb up until almost 500,000, 445,000 passengers per day. Okay, If we do not consider the grant, the net loss will be 4.3 billion. So American Airlines would need to be back at break-even and stop to burn money 40.6% of the revenue they were having the last year. And this number, in terms of passengers, would be 851,000, almost 52,000 passengers per day. Okay, so those are the numbers, guys. Now, the main question is, for how long this crazy situation of 95% down, decrease in the numbers of passengers per day will continue? For how long are we gonna stay at home? So that's the main question. Are we at the end of this disease crisis and lockdown, or is gonna last a lot longer than what we think? That's the main question, because here you can see the numbers. So they are saying, well, you know what, we are gonna go to break even if those numbers are climbing up again. So the main question is this one, and even the stock market is paying very attention to this question. Now, if you don't know, go to check the video I made yesterday. They are trying vaccine trials, and in Europe they are trying to reopen and relax some things about the lockdown. Okay, so it looks like we are going through a phase where lockdown is like something that it was before, and now they are trying to relax. So that means that probably it's likely that those numbers, they are finally gonna climb up again, at least until break even for this company. Okay, so until this company is not reach those numbers, at least the risk of to go bankrupt, it remains high. Even if, remember, United States government said that they will not let airlines down. Okay, I have explained why in the video I did 2 or 3 days ago. So that's the situation, guys. You know my positions. I opened a position on American Airlines the last week. Here you have the screenshot, around $12.20 per share. And I am already in a position as well in Delta Airlines. Okay, so Delta Airlines is the less risky. American Airlines is the riskier in my portfolio. I have it for a small percentage of my portfolio. So I'm planning to hold those companies, and I remain pretty bullish in the futures of airlines stocks. Okay, we cannot, if this lockdown thing is gonna be solved in the next few months, I think that we can see stock prices to go back, to start to climb. Okay, because I think that we cannot go in a situation that it's worse than what we already are. The only problem is if this situation continue to last for a long amount of time. Okay, we all hope that it's gonna finish soon. So this is the end of the video, guys, and I hope you like it, and I hope you find it useful. So leave me a like and leave me a comment below with what you think. If you hold those shares, if you hold those companies, just let me know down in the comment. Subscribe to the channel and have a wonderful day, guys. Bye!